everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing something cool. I'm going to be showing y'all how I design my coasters. I really haven't done that or showed y'all that yet. So in this episode I'm going to show you a way on how you can add what's called heart lining to your coasters to make them look more realistic, to get them smoother, and just it makes the coaster look better by itself. So we're going to dive into that here in a minute. First things first though, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. This is what you can get with heart lining. See that little circle shape right there on that element? That's what's known as heart lining. I'll explain that in future as the video goes on. But with heart lining you can create some really cool elements like barrel rolls, and this element right here is called a death roll. And you can just create so much with it that you normally can't do as well with just the normal Planet Coaster experience. So yeah, we're gonna dive right into that here. Okay, first things first, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the coaster tab here and select, let's go with something that I can show off pretty easily to show you what heart lining is. I'm going to select the Eurofighter here just for a minute because I know this thing can launch. Okay, so the first step we would normally do to create a coaster, I'm just going to show you how you would normally create a coaster in Planet Coaster. So you don't really touch any of these settings here. You don't touch the banking offset at all. You just leave it at 0. And you'll just go right into the builder. You don't really care about the track piece that much. So you just kind of just go right into it. So after launch, you know, it will say, oh, well, we'll add a barrel roll, you know. So we'll turn on angle snap, so it makes it a little easier. And we'll go about a 60 degree turn angle for every piece. So we'll go 120 here, and then 180 here. Again, 120 here, 60. And then 0. And so we have a basic shape for a barrel roll, right? We're gonna test it, and yeah, you might be thinking, okay, that looks okay. Well, it doesn't really look very smooth, and when the coaster goes on it, it looks a little weird. So what's wrong with this coaster? Why is this not considered realistic? The main reason why this is not considered realistic is because it doesn't have something called heart lining. Now, heart lining is an element that is added to track on most modern steel coasters that is designed for the train to rotate around the rider's heart. And so right now there is no heart lining on this coaster, and what I mean by that is this coaster actually rotates around itself. It doesn't rotate around the rider's heart. So it forms kind of this straight effect where the rider goes around the track instead of the opposite, where the track goes around the rider. And it's hard to explain. So I'll show you another example of a coaster with heart lining here. Okay, so I've just created a coaster that is heartline to show you the difference, and you can see that there is a huge difference between this circular shape and the one that we just made in Planet Coaster using no smoothing techniques or anything. We just solely went through and made a quick coaster, whereas this element took a bit of time to produce, but it is a lot better looking, and you can see how smooth that looks, other than kind of a wonky transition here. Now I'm going to explain what heart lining is again from this perspective. This is a test dummy of Planet Coaster, but this Planet Coaster logo is basically where a person's heart is. And if you watch that logo, throughout this whole element, it remains in the same place almost the same time. See how it's just rotating? All it's doing is rotating around it. it doesn't move up or down, it doesn't go above the track or below it. All it's doing is rotating around the heart. I want to watch it again from a kind of farther away angle. As you can see, the rider's heart, just watch my cursor, how it just remains in the same place almost the whole entire time. I didn't have to move my cursor, it was basically in the middle of my cursor the entire time. Compared to this coaster, see how the coaster just goes around it? That is completely different, and that is not heartlining, and that is not realistic. Okay, I'm going to go into the same coaster to get the basic effect, and again we're going to put a launch on it and go straight into it. So how I make heartlining on my coasters is I generally start with a 4-meter piece track, and a 4-meter piece track is 13 foot. You can do the math, or you can change it to the metric system, which you can do in the settings. I might make another video on that too, but that's pretty easy. You can just look it up through Steam and stuff like that. Okay, so what I start with is a 13.12 foot piece, or I just call it a 4-meter piece. And you're going to go through into here, into this tab on the coaster editor, and go to utility settings. Then you'll bring up your banking offset. This is what's going to allow you to add heartlining to the track. 7 foot, if you go all the way to 7 foot, you can see that it puts the track way out here. Compare that to 0 foot, we see that the track banks around this white dot rather than banking around itself. So, and then the opposite for 7, it does the opposite, where it goes the opposite way. We normally don't touch the opposite there, so you don't have to worry about the negative side of things. I generally go around 3 to 4 feet when I do heartlining. We're going to do 3 for now. Actually, we're going to do 4 for now, just in case. So make sure your banking offset is either at 3 or 4. It actually just depends on what type of coaster you're building. For this coaster, generally it's probably around 3, but I'm just going to show 4 so that we can get that more heartline effect to it. So make sure your angle snap is on. You don't have to do this, but it helps you keep a constant variable going around. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to have about, well, we'll use a 30 degree interval, and we'll keep going around by 30 degrees. So 60, 90, 120, 150, and then we're going to go completely vertical here, so that's 180, not vertical. We're going to go completely 50, and then we're going to go completely upside down here, which is 180, and then 150 again, so we're starting to come back around. 120, 90, 60, 30, and 0. Oops. 30 and 0. Okay, so now we have the basic shape for the coaster. I'm going to get rid of these supports so that y'all can see better. And you can immediately see a difference between this coaster and this coaster. And that is the heartlining. It just forms this circular shape, and the track kind of banks around itself, or in other words, around the rider's heart. So we'll test it real quick, just to see how it looks. You can see it looks a little better because the coaster actually kind of rises and banks around the rider's heart. And we'll show you what I mean by banking around a rider's heart here for a minute. So you can see that the rider's heart basically stays in the same spot the whole time, so there's good heartlining there. Of course, it's not smooth. So yeah, that's pretty good heartlining right there. Now we're going to move to the next step, which is to smooth this heartlined barrel roll, or heartline roll, as some people call it. And there's a couple steps in doing this, and I'll put the whole element or whole layout. Sometimes when you're making a coaster, it's easier to just select everything that you've created and then smooth it with the big smooth button here. So select everything that you want to get smooth, or that everything that you've heartlined, and smooth it 1, 2, 3 times. And immediately you can see that, oh yeah, that's a lot smoother. It's getting rid of that bumpiness on the edges, but it's still not completely smooth. So next step is this is step 2, to select one piece of the track. Now, since they're all 13-foot pieces, or 4-meter pieces, as some people like to say, you're gonna have to select quite a few of them. So what I generally do is I select 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and this just allows me to smooth, or get rid of that bumpiness effect, but also keep the heartlining at the same time. Okay, so the next step is to actually drag this piece along while smoothing. So we're going to do that now. So we're going to smooth it first, and then move this piece to the right, smooth it again, move it to the right, and so on and so forth. And we're going to do that all the way till we get this piece to the end of our element or layout. And voila, we have an even smoother element now, and you can even see that the coaster is starting to look very good on this element. The train is still it still has heartlining, and you can see that rider heart stay in the same place the whole time, rather compared to this one where it rotates around the track. And then the next step is to go backwards with it. Now, I'm going to pause the game really fast. This process can actually prove very long, and I'll tell you all why in a minute. So, once we get to this side, we're going to start going back. So, make sure you don't miss any pieces. That's kind of key to the smooth process. So, smooth. I missed another one. Smooth. Smooth. You may not notice anything yet, but you can also see that it's moving a lot of the pieces and stuff back to a more smooth region. That train will fall off. I'm gonna get that train to fall off. Okay. Now it's even smoother. And it's starting to look a little strange from this side, but we're gonna go back through it. The ideal smoothing thing is to go through that 8 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So basically you go through the whole thing 4 times. So back and forth is 1, back and forth is 2, back and forth is 3, and back and forth is 4. And yeah, it does take a while, but it's totally worth it at the end. Now, a way you can speed up the process is by getting these 3 buttons here. This is actually a mod in the game, and doesn't come. These buttons are actually modded into the game. They're not in the game to begin with when you first download Planet Coaster, but you can actually, I think it's just an ACE folder, so you can literally just drag and drop a file that I will put below in the description into your. You can literally just drag that file into, I think it's your Planet Coaster folder. I'll put the tutorial on how to do this too, but these buttons really help. And as you can see, it's smooth forward, smooth backwards, so you can probably guess what happens when I press it. Smooth forward, it moves everything forward, and then smooth backwards does everything backwards. And you can see it really speeds up the process. So that's my second time going through. My third, and my fourth. So there we go. We have a really smooth roll now. Now that the smoothing done, we're gonna ride it. See how it is. It's pretty smooth, as you can see. And that's basically how you create a heartline effect on a roller coaster in Planet Coaster. Of course, I was just playing around with this part right here, so that's not very realistic on this part. But The roll itself is pretty decent, and compared to this coaster, which is the basic mock-up which you would normally create in Planet Coaster, it's a little strange looking. So yeah, pretty easy, and you can design some really cool looking elements in Planet Coaster with it. Okay, so here we are in a finished product of the coaster that I showed you earlier. This is a finished project of a coaster that I've been working on for a really long time. I'm going to show you what kind of elements I've incorporated into this coaster that are made with heartlining to make the coaster more realistic. So first of all, one of the things I love about this coaster is its drop. It's using what's called a barrel roll down drop. There's basically a barrel roll, but it drops downward instead of having a straight slope. So I love it. It looks so good, and you get dropped and flung down the first drop. This element has some heartlining right here. As you can see, it's not just banked straight, it's got the heartline effect. You can see that heartline again come up and around the track. If you're new to this concept of heartlining, you're not going to be able to really tell a difference yet. You're just going to have to keep doing it over and over until your eyes see what heartlining looks like. My eyes see heartlining really easily. I can tell really easily if that coaster has heartlining or not. Another cool element that I have is a zero G roll. Some really smooth track going through here, and it's nice heartline. Okay, I can't stay in there. This music's actually copyrighted. This coaster is one of my favorite I've built. Let's see, what else do I have? With heartlining, you can create stuff like this, where you bank really fast off of an airtime hill, or just have a short little tiny bank to the right, and so that you can change your direction to get the rider to get kind of thrown to the side of the train, but not really, like really hard. Just a tiny bit to knock a little fear and adrenaline into their little souls. This is that barrel roll I was showing y'all earlier. I've done some work on the side, and really, it's turned out really good. As you can see, there's that heartline effect again, where you can really just see right through it to the other side of it. And I love that. I feel like that's what characterizes it, when you can see straight through it, and you can see that coaster just kind of whip around it. And that's really what characterizes heartlining. I'm gonna wait for a train here for a minute to come through. So yeah, I've been doing some work on it. I've done some, oh my gosh, I've done some custom supports. Okay, here comes the train. Just watch it as that whips through. Whee! See that whip that went through? I added a fountain effect too. Again, I'm going to show you another example of a heartline effect. See that kind of heartlining thing here? You can see straight through it, right through. You can see straight from one side of the element to the other side. As we talked about earlier, that's kind of what characterizes it. I love this element too in the back row. You kind of just get whipped around and thrown into that. One of my favorite things about this ride though is, oh goodness, copyright music. Sorry about that. I gotta pause my game. So, again, another heartline effect right out of the station. It crawls through this element, the train, and I love it. I love this ride so much. And so that's just a couple things that you can do to make your coasters better and more smooth. Alright, so that's really it. All I have for this video. All I want to show you, I'm going to make this a series. Probably going to call the series like how to become better at Planet Coaster, or how to become a better coaster builder, something like that, so that Y'all can easily find the videos y'all need on how to make better coasters. Again, I'll probably make a couple more of these. So like how you can do custom supporting, how you can make your coaster even smoother and even more heartlined, which is really an intermediate guide rather than the beginner's guide. So yeah, I'll probably leave y'all with a POV, and I will see y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Goodbye.